a lot of questions, but I just want to begin with, do you think it's possible to become addicted to, to kind of like sugar and salt? Because I have heard that in the past, but I do want to ask you as an expert, do you think that it is possible?
So there are bodies of work that are talking about food addiction in general. So and there are people who identify as being addicted to food. I haven't delved deep into it. And, I tend to sometimes stay away from things like that because unless there's clear-cut science around it, it can be controversial. But yeah, we are finding that there are foods that people that are addicted, so to speak. And sometimes, or some of the data is showing that sugar could be as addictive as some of these other substances like, illicit drugs. So, yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm. What is a calorie and is it vital to your daily diet?
Oh, yeah. So a calorie is basically a unit of energy, right? So we talk about it sometimes in kilocalorie. So that is just a unit of energy, right? So when you break it down, right, the foods that we eat, they basically go through a process in our bodies to generate energy. And energy, you think about it as what helps us to move and get around and, even think. So your brain, and that's why you hear things like, oh, your brain needs sugar to function. But that's really what a calorie is. And it's very, very necessary just based on that. Like you need the energy to be able to exist.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so that is actually pretty interesting. And correct me if I'm wrong. So I know that based on your daily lifestyle, how you work out, how much you weigh, the recommended calories for you is different for every single person. Mm-hmm. So when does the calorie consumption become too much for a person? Mm-hmm. Is there a such thing?
Yeah, definitely. So, and there is controversy around calories in, calories out, because people get, very, I don't know what the word is, but people get very upset when people say, oh, just eat less and move more, right? But it does factor into our metabolism and how to maintain weight maintenance, basically, right? So if you think about an equation, on one side is how much you're taking in, and on the other side is how much you're burning, right? If you are consuming so many calories, let's say the best way to do it is you want it to be equal, right? To maintain your weight. So if you had 200 on this side and then 200 on the in and 200 on the out, that's balanced. But at some point, if you were doing like 700 and only 200, then that weight, that energy that you're intaking is going to go somewhere, right? The biochemical processes are going to happen and fat storage is going to happen. And that's when the calories become too much. So there needs to be a balance.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Is there a daily, just recommendation of calories?
I think that's going to vary. So it's hard to just throw out a number. We don't necessarily just throw out numbers, but it's going to vary from person to person.
Okay. Awesome. Yeah. Okay. So what is fat and is it essential in your daily diet?
So fat is a macronutrient. And again, when we go back to the calorie conversation and the kilocalories, you have fat contains 9 kilocalories per gram, right? So it's a bit more dense in terms of how much. So if you think about that, right, like if you're consuming a certain amount of fat, you just have to multiply that by 9. So it kind of is high up there, and it is essential, right? There are processes in the body that require fat, especially your membranes. They have fat in them, so you need to at least ingest some kind of fat to keep that going. Some of your hormones require fat to be processed. So yes, it's part of a healthy diet. It should be part of the plate. And, if you can understand from what I'm going to be saying is like none of these macronutrients should be eliminated from the plate. It's important.
I think that's really important to note because oftentimes with these diets, they often say, I'm not eating fat for like 2 weeks or for 3 weeks, or I'm taking carbs completely out of my diet. And that restriction is what really scares me because our body does need it. Even if it's in just like a minuscule amount, it is needed for our bodies to function.
Yeah.
So, okay. So what is a protein, and is protein vital to our daily consumption?
Oh, yeah. So protein, again, is is a macronutrient made up of amino acids. So it is definitely vital as well. Like I said, all of these macronutrients are important. There's some thinking that animal fat and animal protein should be eliminated, especially in the plant-based or vegan world. And that's not necessarily the case, because we find places where it's important for you to have animal protein still in your diet. But protein overall, so you can still get it from either plants or animal, but overall it's important. Now, the role of protein, like I said, is made up of amino acids. And so that's what happens in the body. The body is going to break that down. And those amino acids are important for different processes, and also like muscle building, things like that. And you know what happens if you don't have enough muscle mass, then, if you think about your little old ladies, there's risk of falls and things like that. Being in a hospital setting, that's what happens. But it's very important for those things, for those reasons. Yeah.
Okay. I do want to ask, what happens, and I'm not sure if you know, but I just want to throw it out there. What happens for those that work out, and they are lifting weights consistently, maybe 3-4 times a week, but they're not eating proteins. They aren't drinking protein shakes, or they aren't getting it in their diet. How does that affect them?
Well, so you're talking about the lay person, like regular, not an athlete or anything like that, right?
I guess kind of just like the everyday person that just goes to the gym. So not an athlete, but just someone that, lifts maybe like twice a week. Is there an increased protein amount that is needed when you work out because you are breaking down more like of your muscle fibers? Or because I just sometimes hear that if you work out, you should eat more protein. So I kind of just wanted to kind of know. So
the consumption of protein is to help you to build the muscle mass. Now, if you're not an athlete specifically, or you're not bodybuilders, if you're not in those kind of professions, then you don't necessarily need to supplement beyond, your regular setting up your plate regularly. So there isn't necessarily an increased requirement just because you work out.
Okay.
Yeah.
For those that do work out and they do lift, do you think that they have to get their protein from protein shakes, or can they consume the needed protein within the diet? And I'm asking that because I have come across kind of articles saying sometimes that you don't need protein shakes if you can get it within your diet.
That's my stance too, right? Like let's go to, and that's part of this talk, is let's go to the whole food sources as opposed to a protein powder. Now, if for some reason you're an athlete or bodybuilder, then maybe there's a role there, right? But there isn't a need to go to any of these other sort, like a protein shake or what have you. Like eat, because the recommendation right now is somewhere around 0.8 grams per kilograms of body weight, right? 0.8 to 1, and you can adequately or effectively get that from your diet instead of like reaching for a protein shake. And the risk there is that the protein shakes don't only have protein in them. There's added sugar, right? Mm-hmm. There are other, like dairy or other substances that may just not create the right environment for you to actually maintain the weight.
Okay. Yeah. What are ways that the everyday person can get their protein if they don't want to drink a protein shake?
Yeah, so you want to reach for your animal products if you eat animal products, right? So your protein could either be plant sources or animal sources. And so we like to say go for lean meats because they have less fat content. Again, we want to balance all of these macronutrients on the plate. So chicken or fish will be something that I would say go for first. And then you can also, if you want to do plant sources, then you want to look at things like tofu or soy protein, soybeans. And then your legumes will also have some amount of protein there, although that like beans are actually a carbohydrate. They have more carbohydrate content than protein. But those are some of the things that I will go for. And so when I say lean meats, the other meats that are high in calorie density are like your bacon. So it has like fat, it's a fattier cut of meat, or steaks that have fatty cuts of meat, or that are fatty cuts of meats. Mm-hmm. So you want to avoid those.
Okay. What is a carbohydrate, and is it important to a healthy diet?
Yeah, I know.